Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the multiverse, wherever you might be listening. On this Earth, some parallel Earth, even the parallel Earth that doesn't have the comics but has the videos to go with it. I don't know why that would be the thing. My name is Roe Convoy, and this is Ultimate Mayhem. So, I figured with Morbius coming next Friday, and Sony's pushing it off because of the pandemic, I thought it might be a good idea to give you some information on him, kind of introduce you to the character before you can go and see the movie, or even so that it would give you some time to say, okay, now that I've heard about him, I would like to go and read about him. So, with that, let's kick the door open. We're going to head back into Earth 616. That seems to be the main Marvel verse. Everything that goes through is Earth 616. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Let's kick that door wide open. And so with that, we're going to travel to meet the Doctor, where we will eventually find the vampire within. Welcome to Ultimate Mayhem, Michael Morbius edition. So, now we're going to give you a little bit of history on the origin, even though it's the comic aspect of it. So, Michael Morbius was introduced in The Amazing Spider-Man number 101, which was published in October of 1971. He was created by Roy Thomas and drawn originally by Gil Kane. So one of the legends that have come out of this is that Blade, the vampire hunter, so everybody knows Blade, played by Wesley Snipes, going to be played by the guy who played Cottonmouth on Luke Cage for the next little while here, had one point actually received the powers that he had from Morbius himself. Again, at this point, I don't know why Marvel didn't continue this storyline and thought that was the way to go, but apparently they chose not to go forward with it. So, IGN once ranked all the Spider-Man villains over the time period, and ironically enough, Michael Morbius came in at number 19. Now, this was a rank of top 25, and for whatever reason, Michael Morbius only hit number 19. The number one spot went to Dr. Octopus, and which kind of surprised me when I looked it up. I was like, well, I wouldn't have pegged him as number one, but okay. I will include the link below to the list below if you want to see where your favorite villains stacked up. And just remember that the list that I'm presenting or giving you the link to is from 2014. So the number one could have gone to anyone else, but at this point, Venom actually would have been a really good number one, I feel. Like, even though Venom has become more of an anti-hero and whatnot, that he still would have been a good number one for Spider-Man villain. Or even Green Goblin at this point. I mean, Willem Dafoe, perfect actor for that. Anyway, so, yeah, the link will be in the description below. Michael Morbius was born and raised in Greece by his mother. Obviously, dad was not there. Dad was not present. Raised by a single mother. When he was a child, he usually spent quite a lot of time alone because he had this rare blood disease, which any research I did find into it, I couldn't find the actual name of it. So that he had. So apparently, the blood disease he had also apparently made him very ugly. That is the description of all the research I've done. That is the thing they all went with. He's ugly. So the blood disease was the one causing all the ugliness outside. Again, I don't know why Marvel thinks, let's go with calling the guy ugly. Yeah. Even with his looks, he spent most of his time studying and eventually became a well-known and Nobel Prize-winning biologist. In blood science, he's been trying to find a cure for his disease. He became a well-known biologist, well-known hematologist, I should say, with basically animal and blood DNA, trying to figure out what his disease was. Eventually, at one point, he managed to escape Greece and head to New York City because basically he had become a vampire by that point. And he had started research into his condition in hopes he could find a cure. Also, so he could protect his fiancée at the time, Martine Bancroft. And as he moved into New York City, he became onto the radar of both Dr. Kurt Connors, as we all know, is the Lizard, one of Spider-Man's greatest villains, and Spider-Man himself, actually, and who had hoped that they would be able to save themselves using the blood of Morbius. So they're hoping that they could use his blood to save themselves as well. That is when the truth about his condition came out, that he had used a vampire bat and electroshock therapy in order to cure himself of the blood disease that was taking his life away. So the blood disease was killing him. He managed to find a way to add electroshock therapy and a vampire bat together and thought that was the idea we were going to go with. Hence why he's now a vampire. There's your answer for the day. So this resulted in him almost becoming like a vampire instead of being one. So it really was more like as a pseudo vampire than he actually is a real vampire. It did give him some of the abilities of a vampire as well as the bloodlust that went with it. So basically, he may have given him some of the abilities, but also gave him the bloodlust that went with it as well. So, like, if you've ever seen the Blade movies, you know how Blade is a daywalker, but in process has the bloodlust of all the vampires. So he's basically taking serum and all that to protect himself. He gained several new abilities, like strength, speed, ability to fly. He's able to heal, immune to sunlight, but the only thing that was really keeping him alive at that point was he had to drink blood. Basically, like every other vampire. The only way he feeds himself. So, essentially, he had become a damn fear. Now, if you've ever seen the Blood Rain movies, like, I know we're veering a little bit off topic here, but you ever seen the Blood Rain movies? It's basically kind of similar to that. She had to feed on people to survive, but she really was immune to sunlight. She was still a vampire and all that. So it's basically a similar principle. And if you haven't seen that, please, I do advise you to check that out. It was actually a pretty good movie. So while his appearance had changed had also changed, as well. And apparently I could not write that sentence last night at 3 a.m. Figure that out. He had white skin, extended, so basically his front teeth, top two teeth extended out like fangs, and he had a flat nose like a bat. And so with his bite came the ability to turn other people into the creatures like himself, by biting their necks and drinking their blood. So basically he had the ability to turn other people like normal vampires do, except they become these creatures that he himself is. The people that Morbius had turned into vampires were able to receive a cure, which was created by Morbius himself, along with his fiancée Martine. For whatever reason, though, the cure does not work. See, the cure can't work on himself, obviously, because of the fact that it's made from his own blood. So basically, you're injecting new blood into himself, but, it doesn't work. And on another note, like, the people that were infected by Morbius at that point did not get his ability to fly, and they also did not get his ability to heal. So basically, if they were hit in the head and they got their head cut off, game over. They're dead. They're not coming back. Morbius had then wanted to find a cure for the vampirism, but managed to fail to do so. He fought against the original X-Men, so the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man himself again. So it seems to be a reoccurring occurrence that Morbius likes to fight Spider-Man and has Human Torch involved and all that. Morbius encountered a woman known as Barbara Clark, whom he protected from a demon known as Nilrak. After the battle, he ended up killing her and drinking the blood from her body. But he did immediately regret the actions that he had taken there, after he had finished everything. Morbius freed a woman by the name of Amanda Smith from a cult demon fire, and then basically he helped her find her parents afterwards. So he didn't really kill her, he was going to, but then obviously he protected her and tried to help her find her parents afterwards. And Morbius was the one responsible for John Jameson, and as most people I've learned, even myself, that is the son of J. Jonah Jameson. So he's the third. So he's the son of J. Jonah Jameson, and basically he caused him to become man-wolf once more. Basically a giant man kind of werewolf. Morbius later teamed up with Man-Wolf against Spider-Man in hopes that he would be able to get the cure once more. So a lot of his motives seem to be about the fact that he wants to get this cure for vampirism. Even though he himself is a vampire, but, he wants to be able to go back to his normal life without the side effects of the blood disease coming back and killing his ass. And Morbius then eventually fought against the caretakers of Arcturus 4 and their leader, Reverend Damon. While he was fighting them, he traveled to the land within, which is the home of the cat people. So really, it's a planet of full cats. So at that point, are we watching a full movie of cats at that point? Who knows? And when he had returned and then he went back to Arcturus 4. And when he had returned to the caretaker's homeworld, that is where he encounters Blade for the first time. So that's where he encounters the vampire hunter. He also encounters Jack Russell, or as we all know him as Werewolf. So that was Moon Knight's origin. Sees a Moon Knight's thing, number 1. That is where Moon Knight first appeared, by the way. If you haven't seen the previous video, please go check that out. So after that, he managed to fight a CIA agent known as Simon Stroud and a cosmic demon known as Hell Eyes. The two battle a large group of vampires that Morbius had created. Basically, the two of them team up, kill all the vampires, and then basically they're all things that Morbius had created himself. After this encounter, he basically helps a few other women in need, escaping cults, just in general. So in hopes, which he succeeds in doing. He visits one of his old friends, Ronson Slade, in hopes that he could find a cure for the vampirism. So, like I said, most of his motives seem to be based on the whole fact that he's got vampirism, he's trying to find a cure for it, while keeping the blood disease at bay. And Slade, though, had been turned into a werewolf, which Morbius ends up killing him in the process. So Morbius finds his friend becomes a werewolf, Morbius kills a werewolf. Eventually, he teams up with Johnny Blaze, Man-Thing, and Werewolf to come by the Starseed. Again, I didn't really have time. I didn't really look this up. That one was just one of those ones where it's like, terminology, I could have looked it up. Morbius eventually battles the Thing, so I'm assuming that is the giant rock man that is Fantastic Four. And then teamed up with him to face off against the living Eraser, after which he leaves the planet. So basically he escapes into a different dimension and then kind of says, okay, enough's enough, comes back another time. When he returned to Earth, he fought Spider-Man once more, but this time he was being controlled by an empathic android who basically literally feeds on emotions. So going through it all, this android is possessing him, he feeds on emotions. Spider-Man was able to end the android after it had left Morbius and taken over Spider-Man instead, when he took it to a baseball game where it exploded due to the amount of emotions that were being felt at that point. And I put emptitions. I didn't figure that out. After the full battle, Morbius fled the scene, so he left, and the body of the android was put with the Fantastic Four for safekeeping. And with that, we've just completed the talk on Michael Morbius, the vampire, the doctor, the scientist. So, starting in the first week of April, I've decided we're going to do a full tournament. And when I say tournament, I mean we're going to have 8 characters jump in. And I'll post a link on the social media site so you can check this out. And I want you guys to be able to participate. I want you to be able to join me. And it's going to be a defenders versus defenders. Now, a lot of you are going to ask, okay, what is the difference here? The idea is that we're going to take the 4 original defenders. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. And we're going to pit them up against the 4 defenders from Warp World. Next week we're going to talk a little bit about the Defenders comics, and we'll talk about Warp World as well. But they're going to be facing off against Iron Hammer, Soldier Supreme, Arachnite, and Weapon Hex. Now, the four Warp World Defenders. Again, we'll talk about the combinations next week, and then we'll get to deciding from there. And with that, because I didn't want it to be unfair. Like, the thing is that we could add the TV show versions in there for Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. But really, no one likes the TV show Iron Fist anyway. So, and since it would be more fair to have comic versus comic, that's what we're doing. Let the multiverse be your guide to new things, and allow it to be the one to open new doors and new and exciting doors for you within it. Basically, let it guide you, let it teach you. Maybe you'll learn something from it. My name is Rogue Convoy, and this has been Ultimate Mayhem Morbius Edition.